Henrietta captivated Henry IV, and the king sincerely promised to marry this lovely young woman. Her family insisted on a written agreement, and the monarch complied. He signed a document committing to unite with the young Lady de Balzac-Antragues, pay her 100,000 écus, and grant her the title of Marquise at the time of their engagement. However, almost none of these intentions came to fruition, and many believe this is precisely why Henry IV met his end. Beneath layers of powder, it was difficult to discern the color of her hair, but Catherine Henrietta was likely a brunette. The daughter of the governor of Orleans, she was born in the latter half of the 16th century, and her mother was the enchanting Marie Toucher, the favorite of King Charles IX. But don't assume that royal blood flowed through Henrietta's veins. The monarch had passed away before her birth, and she was undoubtedly the daughter of François de Balzac. A portrait of the young woman fails to capture her full charm. Perhaps the artist lacked talent, or maybe that was simply the style of the time. Nevertheless, the king met Henrietta and fell in love with her while mourning his deceased beloved, Gabrielle d'Estrées. Rumors circulated that Henry was inspired by the 20-year-old Balzac just 6 days after the death of his favorite. Others insisted that she was deliberately introduced to the king during a hunt several months later. Yet, the king's face brightened, and the poet Nicholas Rapin wryly remarked, "Indeed, one nail drives out another. You are my one true love. I sigh for you day and night. I offer you a crown and scepter," wrote Henry. Gabrielle's relatives turned pale with rage. Barely had the beauty found peace, and Henry was already courting another. And what's more, he promised Henrietta's family that he would marry her. The truth was that the young lady proved to be more cunning than her predecessor. She was in no rush to fall into the king's arms. Her family strictly instructed Henrietta, let the eager suitor sign the document first, and then they could enjoy all the pleasures of their relationship. This is why the lovesick king agreed so readily. Otherwise, he would have had no chance to experience the charms of his chosen one. The document Henry provided to the Balzac-Antragues family specified that the girl would receive the money and title, and the king would marry her if she became pregnant and bore a son. Had Henrietta conceived right away, she would have been the Queen of France. But months passed without any important symptoms appearing. Feeling free from his promises, Henry IV married the Florentine Maria de' Medici. Yet, he couldn't bring himself to abandon his beloved and continued to visit her. Moreover, he even settled his favorite in the Louvre. In the end, both Henrietta and the Queen nearly simultaneously gifted the king with sons, Gaston-Henri de Verneuil, with a ducal title, and Louis, the Dauphin of France. The missed opportunity infuriated the favorite and her relatives. The royal palace became a battleground of unending conflicts. Henrietta threw tantrums, demanded honors for herself, loudly proclaimed that she was the true queen, and she had the paper to prove it, and insisted that Henry divorce de' Medici. The one who had once captivated the king turned into a fury. Madame Splinter, as the Italian queen once hastily dubbed her. The scenes that Henrietta created caused discomfort not only for the king, but for everyone around her. Henrietta's brother, Charles of Angoulême, son of Marie Touchet, the mistress of King Charles of Valois, took it upon himself to defend her rights. Knowing the history of his sister's relationship with the king, Angoulême rightly considered Henry IV a violator of oaths and a man unworthy of her. The document Henrietta possessed, Charles argued, gave her grounds to declare the king's marriage to Medici invalid. Therefore, Gaston-Henri de Verneuil should be recognized as the rightful heir to the throne. But since the king ignored these claims and had no intention of changing anything, a conspiracy formed. One of its participants, Charles de Biron, was executed, while the others managed to plead for forgiveness. Henry behaved foolishly, completely unkingly. He couldn't tame his proud mistress, even forgiving her infidelities. Soon, they had another child, a daughter. Gabrielle Angelique was acknowledged by Henry, but many at court doubted his paternity. The following year marked yet another conspiracy, this time involving the King of Spain. The instigators were Henrietta's father and brother, They managed to negotiate with Philip III for support and even for a marriage between young Gaston and a Spanish infanta. Henry soon learned of this new alliance. But while he had forgiven the conspirators the first time, he was now far more resolute. After all, enemies of France were involved. Henrietta swore she knew nothing about it and that her relatives acted without her consent. Perhaps that was true, but the young woman's behavior had exhausted the king to the point where he didn't bother to investigate further. Charles of Angoulême and Henrietta's father faced execution, while the newly titled Marquise de Verneuil, as they now called Henrietta, was to retire to a convent. Once again, Henry's soft heart prevailed. Henrietta's father was soon released. Charles of Angoulême was imprisoned in a fortress, and Madame Splinter was merely exiled to her estates. The king did not resume his relationship with Henrietta, but wrote to her regularly. Then, in the year 1610, the dagger of Ravaillac ended the life of the King of France. Henrietta was immediately remembered, and her maid testified that the Marquise was indeed the one who had given orders to the assassin. The maid was thoroughly interrogated, and the case materials were even reviewed in Parliament, but those documents have not survived to this day. They were lost in a fire. It is known that when it came time to vote, opinions were divided. 9 votes were cast for life imprisonment for the maid, while another 9 were against it. And what about Henrietta? Her involvement in the conspiracy against the king could not be proven. She lived for another 23 years, lamenting the empty promises of Henry IV. Her son, who could have become the Dauphin, Gaston Henri de Verneuil, lived to the age of 81 without ever claiming a right to the throne. As for Henrietta's daughter, she later married the Duke of Epernon. The fate of this young woman is shrouded in mystery. At the age of 24, she was poisoned, and no one knows by whom or for what purpose.